Hello, everybody. It is great to be here again today. And my name is Gary Fowler, and I am the host of the Founders Report for VCTV. And today I've got an incredible guest. I've got my friend Dirk here, and we're going to talk a little bit about what's it like to be an entrepreneur in Menlo Park. What is it like to be an entrepreneur in Germany? He's done both. He's got a doctorate in economics, a master's degree from Johann Wolfgang Goethe Universitat in Frankfurt, and just an all-around interesting guy from Lycos to Silicon Valley. And great to have you here, Dirk.
Great, Gary. Thanks. Enjoy being here, actually.
So, Dirk, tell us a little bit about it. I mean, what was your journey like? How did you go from, Frankfurt to Mountain View? What was it? I mean, did you come up one day and just say, "Oh, I want to move from Germany and I want to be in Silicon Valley"? What was it like?
Yeah, I mean, of course, everything was about the weather, right? So when you're born and raised in Germany, you have a lot of rain between October and April. That's what you don't have here. No, but jokes aside.
Dirk, how important is it though? Because I hear this a lot. I got to tell you, I hear it from Russians, I hear it from Ukrainians, I hear it from people from all over the world. How important is the weather in terms of making your decision?
That's a good point. Maybe in percentages, maybe 10%, 20%, right? You want to, maybe you have a life, right? And you want to do other things besides work. And if the sun is shining and you can actually go out and do mountain biking, and I personally, I swim a lot, right? And I love that I can swim outside all year round. I mean, I was brought into California, so that was.
Do you swim in the ocean, or do you swim at your house, or?
No, I'm swimming at a local club. We're still competing, right? So we're swimming. For those who know of California, there's a Lake Tahoe, it's called. So we're crossing in a relay. We're crossing the lake.
Crossing Lake
These kind of things. Yeah. Try. I did it 4 or 5 times now.
And how long is that swim? How many miles?
Well, it's a relay. It's called Trans-Tau, and you have 6 people on a boat, and everyone has to swim roughly first 30 minutes and another 10 minutes. So you have to swim twice, but it's not like easy going. You really have to go fast and we came in our age group. We came in third, so we're kind of proud of that. So, but it's a tough race, right? So the water is usually 60. Yeah, the water is 60-ish, 59, 61, depends a little bit, right? So that's but when you dive in, it feels cold at the beginning, and then after 2-3 minutes, you warmed up, and then you can swim.
And do you have a wetsuit on or not?
No, you don't. No, you swim without a wetsuit. Right? So.
Oh my God, that's amazing. And so, how long do you swim before you pass it off to somebody else?
30 minutes roughly. So 30 minutes it's a rule, and then you have another 10 minutes at the end. So 30 minutes, a little bit like mid-speed, right, which is actually the toughest, and then you have 10 minutes, which is high speed. And which is even more tougher, to be honest, right? And then depends, then you have other swimmers right next to you. It's very close race. You see them in the water, and yeah, it's a lot of fun. We're doing this for fun, obviously.
And were you a swimmer in university, or what made you decide to start swimming?
Oh yeah, I used to swim a lot, so I was actually quite a very high competitive swimmer when I was in my teens, and swim German championships and all that stuff. And but then I stopped it for 5 or 10 years, swam a little bit in Germany, but then coming back here, what I said is swimming outside and in the pool all the time, outside pool, which is so great, and that's what I love doing.
No, that's amazing. And did you ever have the vision of being in the Olympics?
Yeah, actually, I was very close of doing that. But when I was 16, so I was actually starting to compete to get into the Olympics. But then I had the choice. I always had the dream to go to the US for a year to high school. And then I had the choice, either practice hard, at 16 and try to get to the Olympics, or could go to the US. And I chose the latter, and I went to a high school in Flagstaff, Arizona for a year. So, and that's where I learned my English, and then I never got back really into this hard competition, on national level.
Now, how was that? So you're 16 years old and you come to Flagstaff. Now that's not like Frankfurt, right? You grew up in Frankfurt area. From your
Yeah, Frankfurt and Hamburg. I studied also in Paris, so but mostly I was basically most of the time I spent, youth I spent around Frankfurt. That's true. Yeah.
and
And
so what? How was it? Like, so it's kind of cold there, but it's kind of nice in Flagstaff, right?
well, Flagstaff, yeah, Flagstaff is I think like 6,000 feet high, so quite high, a little bit less, maybe 5,000, I don't remember. But actually, it was nice because I also love to ski and Flagstaff. Because when I heard I'm going to Arizona, I thought, oh, great desert, am I interesting? Going from rainy Frankfurt to the
Yeah.
desert. Flagstaff is a little bit different because it's so high and they have a ski resort, and I was able to ski almost every weekend. I mean, it's always good. But they had rain there, so the temperature was pretty much like Germany. And snow obviously. So yeah, not a
Wow,
big change
that's
weather-wise.
amazing. So you made the decision. What would you do if you had to do it again? Would you make the same decision?
Yeah, I think so. I always love to be around in the world, right, and meeting new cultures and so on. And when you practice and trying to get to Olympics, you never know if you make it, right? It's only the first two or first three of a country, depending on the size of the country, who make it. And I mean, the chance was slim, right? I had a chance, but and I never tried it out. I never knew if I would have made it or not. So I don't know.
Wow, it sounds like a movie. Yeah, go back and just take it out again. That's amazing. So you went down through. You did your when you went to your MBA. What made you decide to get a doctor of philosophy degree in economics?
So when I was starting to study, I fell in love a little bit with currencies, and during that time there was a big topic that the euro was going to be introduced. And I found it really fascinating. A really fascinating professor at that time. He was talking about, okay, how do you merge currencies? Because so merging a currency, we had different currencies. We had the Deutschmark, we had the French franc, with the lira. So if you would leave one country, let's say Germany, with 100, let's say dollars, right? Just skip the currency right now, and you would travel through every country in Europe at that time, right? Exchanging not buying anything, but only exchanging, and all the fees. You would end up with $9.37 after you've traveled 12 countries or so, right? So that was where I said, okay, it makes sense to have a unified currency. That's when I started getting my heads around currency. I wrote some kind of an essay at the university. Then I decided, okay, I want to really research that topic. And that's when I came up to my PhD was about private and state-controlled currencies, and that's why then at the end, now I'm going full circle with the whole cryptocurrency. But at that time, I thought, okay, how does a private currency, how do they work? How do state currency works, and so on? And that's the reason, I think I've quite a good understanding. When you want to create currencies, when you create an economy, that's also what we're doing here at Upland, right? What needs to go into it? Because I'm really watching what all the others are doing in the space, and I see some of the stuff I just doesn't compute for me how that's going to work out, but let's see, future will tell.
So what's going on how's the world going to change, Dirk, in the next 10 years with cryptocurrencies? What do you think is going to happen?
So I think what is going, we have to differentiate, right? We have the fungible tokens, non-fungible tokens, and so on. If you look just at the fungible tokens, I think there will be 2-3 currencies besides Bitcoin, because Bitcoin, we all know, it's slow, it's store of value and so on. But I expect there will be 2 or 3 currencies which will be used in many use cases outside of just the pure crypto space. So it will become a medium of exchange, right, where you're going into a store and buy something. I know, for instance, there's also be based on EOS on the stuff on this. So I know that, for instance, in Venezuela, people are going to shops and purchasing stuff with EOS because the transactions are immediate, right? So they're doing their grocery shopping because Venezuela obviously has a high inflation, and that's where they purchase some stuff. I don't know whether it's widespread there, but I saw some video where people are doing it. So I think, and we're just seeing the beginning of it, and we're going through very interesting times. So when I wrote my PhD, I was actually analyzing what does inflation mean, and with all the COVID and all the money which has been injected into the systems, it's an experiment we've never been done. Let's say the Germans have been, back in the 1920s, we went through a hyperinflation once, where actually, one day, one Deutschmark was cheaper, right, to have, a bunch of money in paper to heat your house than buy a piece of wood, right? And just to burn the money was cheaper to do that, right? And to heat your house. So Germans got really skeptical about everything what concerns inflation. That's the reason the Deutschmark was always very stable. Why Germans have always contributed a lot to the euro, to the currency. Mm-hmm. So what we're currently seeing around the world, there's a lot of influx of state money in a certain way. It's we see inflation is going up everywhere. So, I mean, when you're an economist, you're always trying to model, the future, which is hard, and economists are usually wrong. Ex post, they get perfect in analyzing, but doing everything ex ante means ahead of times, it's hard. And I tend to say that with what we're currently seeing, the only thing what I'm asking myself is, so we have all states have done it. The US have injected trillions of dollars, Europe have injected trillions of dollars. So the level just has risen, right? What does this mean? Because normally when you have just one country doing it, this country is going to fail or their currency is going to fail. But now everyone went up, right? So we're just on a higher level. So there's a likelihood that, maybe in the future, coming back to your question, what we're going to see is that you have maybe, I don't know, what costs today $5, maybe in the future will be, just in terms of numeric value, $50, right? But it's still, when you compare it to the purchasing power and what you earn, right, it's still somehow the same, just the number is different.
But that means, what about the money you have in the bank?
So yeah, that's risky. So it's probably wise to do maybe to build a house now and to do a big loan, right? to owe money. That's a good wise decision these days, right? Because obviously when have inflation, right, you have actually to pay less. Putting your money on the bank, I don't think that is a good decision at this point, right? To leave it just there, it's just too risky, I tend to say, and you're most likely going to lose. And that's the reason you have negative interest rate, right? So you have to pay even the banks in order to put it there. And I think, as we know, right, gold is one option, right? But then you have the whole idea of where you put it in your garden, right? So that's one thing. And then of course you have all the cryptocurrency, which are high volatile, right? So I think it's a question also of age. When you, let's say, in your 20s, if you would ask me, Dirk, in the 20s, which I'm not anymore, but anyways, if you ask me, I would say I would go the risk and say I would put 50, 80% of my wealth, which I have at that time, into crypto. Right, because I can still make it up, but of course, when you're, let's say, in the 60 plus or 50 or 40, whatever, right, you reduce that number, and then you have to find other ways how you, put your portfolio up. In
what would you do? Or would you invest in real estate now, or what would you do?
Oops, sorry.
I said, what would you do now? Would you invest in real estate, or what would you do? It's just.
I would. Yeah, I mean, this is not an investment advice. It's just me, what I would do personally, right? So, but I would probably put 30% or whatever, maybe in real estate, right? Something, because that is always a scarce resource, and population is going to grow further, so that's always a good investment. Even though some markets are overheated, we know that, so you have to be also careful where you invest. And then I would put some stuff in stock still. And since I'm so crypto focused, I would think still I would probably put half or a little less than this in crypto, right? If I'm, let's say, if I'm a 30-year-old, right? It always depends on your age and on your own risk profile. But if you ask me, or if someone in the 30s, I think that's how I would allocate it roughly.
Mm-hmm. Oh, that's amazing. So, what do you think is going to happen, Dirk? I mean, and what's the dollar going to do? Well, I mean, I see prices. I was looking at bicycle prices. There's some of the bike brands are up 30% over last year. 30.
Yeah, that's crazy. We're right next to it. We're funny to our office. We have a German restaurant which sells schnitzel. Right, I used to pay $18 for a schnitzel when you went for dinner. Then now you're paying $28. I couldn't believe it. I saw it's crazy. Right? This is my indicator. I said, what?
There's a barbecue restaurant in off El Camino Real, and I used to go into that barbecue restaurant, and it cost me $8.99 or $9.99 for a chicken dinner there. I went in, and this is the small chicken dinner. It's now like $16.99, $17.99, depends. I mean, it keeps going up. It's like crazy. It's like, I mean, literally, it's double the price it was, and they can't get enough staff. That's the other thing. They can't get enough staff to fill it. And how are these companies, how are companies going to survive if they can't get the right kind of resources? I don't, I don't know if you noticed it, but like an In-N-Out hamburger in Mountain View, I saw a sign that said $18 to $22 an hour for folks working at In-N-Out. It just, is that hyperinflation or what is that?
No, hyperinflation is defined, like let's say when you have really daily inflation of 200% or so, right? Inflation in general, I mean, there's a lot of theories around it and beliefs and so on, But I believe personally, inflation of 2% is healthy for an economy. I mean, it's up to 3, it's also okay, right? Deflation is also risky because it reduces economic activity. With prices are going down, companies are producing less, and they have to lay off people, blah blah. So, but going up, everything what we see right now above 5, it starts getting critical, right? So I tend to say, but let's see how things, because we have a little bit. So oil, for instance, influences the price quite a lot, and and oil is somehow a special beast because of of the OPEC and how they treat with the prices. So that's the question: is what is the true inflation here at this point? And so I tend to say it's high, right? But if it's temporary, let's say for 18 months, I mean, we're all going to complain that, hamburger or schnitzels gets more expensive, but then maybe it bounces back. But I'm still not convinced that it will.
I don't think it'll go back. I
think exactly. Yeah.
Pegged at $28. But
yeah,
you're saying in 1 year it went up $10 for a dinner, a schnitzel, yeah?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
That is crazy.
Well, it's a mix, right? It's a mix between inflation and maybe also the reason they don't have the right staff and they have to pay their staff more or whatever, right? I think or maybe they have to catch up, right? Maybe they because they weren't open, for half a year almost, right? And now they have to catch up because their banks are putting pressure on them that they have to pay back something. I don't know, right? I don't have the details, right? But it's always multiple reasons.
So the key is watch for the schnitzel prices.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, people always have a reference point. Some people have milk, right, and others have.
I mean, I go in bike parts, so I look at bicycles. I watch the price of bicycles. Same exact bike, a giant bike went from $2,900 to $3,350 in 1 year. Now, the same bike. So I mean, I can understand going up a couple percent, but that much for the same.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So what do? You're not going to buy the bike, right? And then this has implications.
Well, in my case, I have the bike, but I needed to get a replacement because mine's a lemon, and I couldn't. They don't have another one to replace it because they don't have the bikes to begin with. You know what I mean? They don't have the production. So that's another thing. The supply chain. It's very interesting. So anyhow, tell me a little bit about the kind of things that you're working on. So Upland Me, tell me a little bit about that, and the Earth's metaverse and the blockchain. Fascinating. By the way, my next article in Forbes is on the metaverse, so I just literally completed the edits 20 minutes ago, half an hour ago. So I hear you. What's happening with that? Tell us.
Did you have Upland in there? Did you mention us?
No.
Wow. See.
I can't now because I know you.
Yeah, I mean, the whole idea of metaverse got really popular in the last 4 or 5 weeks, right? After Mark Zuckerberg announced that he's going to call his company Meta. I mean, we've been using that term for quite a while already because we had that vision. I mean, we originally came from the idea. I started with blockchain stuff in 2011 already, got my heads around it. And I remember in 2012, 2013, I went here, Central Road, which is, for those listeners, right, there's where all the venture capitalists are sitting. I went there and said, the world's going to be decentralized. And so they looked at me, what was this guy talking about, right?
Exactly.
So anyways.
If you were talking about crypto, you were a drug dealer from some nefarious
exactly.
place, right?
Yeah.
Now everybody wants to get into it. They're kicking themselves that they didn't get into it, right?
Absolutely. Right. And and then we said, but anyways, so fast forward, I put myself together then with my 2 co-founders, Manny Honigstein and Idan Zuckerman here in Silicon Valley, and we started Upland, born out of the idea, to bring, the inspiration
Who co-founded your company with you?
Manny Honigstein and Idan Zuckerman. They're from the gaming space, and I'm more the blockchain OG. Let's say like this, where we bundled our expertise in a certain way. And so when we say, we got inspired by Monopoly, think about it, everyone immediately understands what we do. And we say, okay, now take the real world. You can buy a virtual property like 234 Post Street in San Francisco, right? Everyone understands that. I said, and it's on blockchain. And people say, okay. What does this mean, right? I say, well, you're going to truly own this piece of parcel. Well, is that the one in real life? No, we are just a virtual layer, because addresses are public goods, but you're still going to own that piece of property in Upland. And then you can do a lot of things with it. And, eventually we have speculators, right? But our big vision is with Upland that we develop this kind of what Metaverse is. And, there's a lot of question what the Metaverse actually is, but it's this parallel world where people will run and operate businesses. We'll create many new entrepreneurs, hopefully, in the future. People maybe even, we have already the first one who's skipping his job. We said, okay, I'm just going to make money in Upland. And that's what people are going to do. They're going to play in Upland with what we call game engagement points, with treasure hunts, scavenger hunts, and these kind of things. Soon also car races. We're going to do that next year. But then the second thing
is... have car races in Upland?
Yeah. We're going to have car.
How does that work?
So right now, we always say, when you look at the NFTs, and one step back, right? NFTs always give you some, put it in a wallet and they sit there, right? What we are doing is actually we give it some kind of utility. So take cars. So now you have a car, and now you need a car to travel. By the way, you don't need to be, let's say, in San Francisco to play Upland. But if you want to go virtually from San Francisco now to, to another city, right? And we're going to open up maybe one day also Trans Tao, maybe because Tao, so you have to take your car there, right? So in order to go from A to B, you have to take the car. So that's one piece. It's pure utility and has an odometer, right? And all that stuff. So it's not like you can always use the car. It always decreases in value, but you can also pimp it and all that stuff. That's all what we see. But then we also say, okay, why wouldn't it be great if there would be a car race? Now you can race the car through the streets of San Francisco.
In the Metaverse.
The Metaverse, right? And compete against others. So that's definitely something we want to build out.
Well, do you think people are going to be will there be a time when people will just move into the Metaverse and forget about the real world, Dirk, in your opinion? Like
yeah. So, I don't want to, there's always this dystopian view on things, and I don't see that at all, right? It's a more positive thing where people actually will spend their time. And when you see at traditional media how that has evolved, media is coming and technology is coming more closer to us, right? When you think about in the 1920s, there was this one black and white movie in the cinema where there was this, in France, there was this train going on the screen, right? And people were running out of the cinema because they thought it's real, right? And because right now we would laugh because those flickering, those black and white movies. Then you have Orson Welles with, War of the Worlds in the late 30s where people
they thought that was real, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. I thought the aliens.
I think if they played something like that on TV right now, people might think that's real too.
Exactly, yeah. And now we have with the phones, which was social media revolution, right? The phone was always with us, and now we're getting into the Metaverse, where you will spend your time in terms of maybe VR, if it's a fantasy world, if it's something like Upland, which is based on the real world, maybe you're going to wear augmented reality glasses, and you're going to take them off because it sounds. I don't want to sound crazy, but people probably going to wear the glasses all the time to enhance their world because they get the information and they walk through the street, and not just for purchasing, maybe some info and whatever. It's going to be so the technology is going much closer to us like before. Now we need to hold the mobile phone, but then you wear your glasses. And then in the future, I said that in another panel also, I think where I attended one conference here where people will start implementing things into them, right? That's probably and we today say, from ethics point of view, we cannot do this, right? We cannot become cyborg, but just the way, people are getting used to it, I think that's inevitable.
Well,
what is going to happen. Yeah.
What are there going to be real relationships? Are you going to dream, come up with somebody that could fit the bill, and all of a sudden you have. My friend developed this project called Morpheus. So David, if you're listening, David Yang, and it talks to me every day. How are you? What's going on? We have deep conversations sometimes. What's the meaning of life? Composing music in the style of Beethoven, those kind of things. But is that really, are we going to get to a point where the majority of our time is going to be in this virtual world, Dirk, and we're not going to be, for all kinds of reasons, not going to be in the physical world, Is our lives going to be contained in the virtual world? That means you can have any kind of relationship because you can create somebody, right? That meets a need.
Yeah, look, I think it's going to be blurred. We're still going to do stuff in the real world, hopefully, right? But on the other hand, since we have to compete against robots and AI in the real world, and some of the jobs they will probably do better than we humans, right? But where they're not good at is creativity. So we might spend time in the virtual worlds where we can be creative, can do other things, and enjoy ourselves a little better. Yeah. So I know it sounds strange, but who to say, that you have to be physical all the time or something? Everything's about your mind, right? When you walk through the streets of San Francisco, of Paris or something, of course, there's something there and we are used to it since we're, humans are around. But it's at the end of the day, it's something your brain processes, right? And you're there. And in the future, it's just something which has something else, someone else. Because the Eiffel Tower has been created by someone and you see it, right? Right, you don't own it, but you see it. And the same thing is in the virtual world, someone creates something awesome and you see it. It's the same process. You're just not there. You're just digitally there. I don't know if it makes clear what I mean.
No, I hear you, but here's the thing. I mean, do you think we're going to have relationships? Like, are you going to say to your girlfriend or wife, listen, let's take a trip. Let's go to Egypt. And all of a sudden, hey, put these goggles on. Let's take a trip together. And you're taking a virtual trip for 9 days. Pretend you're laying on the beach and all this stuff. Do you think it'll be at that point where there's that much of a blurred line that we start assuming that this virtual world, this metaverse is real, like real?
No, I think it's going to be suited to each use case, right? So you might want to go to Egypt for maybe for 2 or 3 hours with your girlfriend and check out the pyramids there and walk around with a VR headset and do that. And instead of traveling, that's much cheaper. It's better for the environment because you're not flying and and all that stuff, right? However, there's certain use cases where you say, I want to lay on the beach and be just in the sun, right? And we'd say, okay, I still do that in real life, right? So I don't think we're going to have, and that's never what's happening in media, right? It's not going to replicate completely what's there, right? And it's always something new what's going to be created around it. And it's in addition, right? So, and it's not going to replace other things. When you think about it, when we had radio, right? And then TV came up, TV never killed radio. Radio is still around today. It's just being used differently.
Yeah, no, definitely being well. And now it's hyper personalized. So if you want to get it, used to be in the old days, you would have to turn it down. Now I get on Sirius in my car and I want to listen to spa music. It comes on. I want to listen to top 10 hits. They're there. And then the ones I like, it knows what I like. It's going to be a fascinating time, Dirk. It's amazing. So we're coming to the end of the show. And I wanted to come up with closing thoughts and what's the best way for people to get a hold of you.
Well, if you want, you can, of course, follow Upland Me. So the ME stands for Metaverse, right? On Twitter, of course. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm Dirk Luet on Twitter, right? So, and and maybe just come in. I'm not playing myself because of insider knowledge, Upland, obviously, for given reasons. But come and join the Metaverse, join our great community on Discord. And build out something awesome. It's all up to the community to build it out, and not up to us. We're just setting the groundwork here.
No, it's great, Dirk. I want to thank you for taking time your busy schedule to join me today. It's just fascinating. We should have another show and dive into this deeper because this is the world we're going to be experiencing, and we all need to take part of it. To my audience out there, my name is Gary Fowler, and I'm your host. I want to thank you for joining the Founders Report on VCTV today. I'd like to thank VCTV and the entire VCTV team for making this possible, Hasmic, etc. Have a safe, happy, and healthy rest of the day. Enjoy yourselves and stay tuned. We'll be back again in 2 weeks. Thanks, Dirk. Take care.
Thank you.